I call it the radical Muslim startup idea. What they do is they kidnap a country. They oppress that country. They control the education system. They raise jihadists. They make them super poor. And then they blame it on America and blame it on Israel, blame it on Europe, blame it on anyone but themselves. And then the West feels bad because they see these images of hungry children. So they start sending them money. Maybe we can pay for our sins and help them become good as they want to and deserve to be. And then what they do, they steal that money. They take it to themselves. They live happily ever after, living in different places around the world, keep oppressing their people. And the cycle never ends. And once in a while, they'll send a crazy attack, 9/11 style, October 7th style, start a war. They will run, hide, use their children as human shields. And the reason they do that, because they know it works on you. They know that the media is on their side. They know that the woke leftists are on their side. The Queer for Palestine and all their weirdos are on their side. So what they do is, they start promoting the death of more and more children while stealing their money. This is literally happening textbook in Gaza. And what does the West does and the media? They start falling for it. They start promoting, stop it, ceasefire. This is terrible. Give them what they want. And what are you doing by that? You're actually telling them they can do that again and again. And that vicious cycle will never start. So right now, Syria might actually be trying to imitate the case study of Gaza. Hey, it worked for them. We can do that as well. We're a bunch of radical ISIS operators, have no morals, literally monsters. What we can do is we can get really rich. These Westerners, they're so gullible. Let's kidnap this country. They did that. Let's oppress the people, kill the minorities, keep this country poor. They're doing that. And let's ask for money to help solve the problem. They're doing that, and they're getting that. And then later on, we're going to build our own army, whatever they need to, radicalize our own people to be anti-Semites and to hate the Jews, the Christians, and the world. And then let's go and attack again Israel, the West, Europe, you name it. And that is the biggest fear that people in Syria and the Middle East are just kind of looking, guys, I've seen this movie before. I've seen how it ends. It doesn't end well. Don't fall for it. And the people in Syria right now are extremely worried that the world is going to normalize relationship with Jawlani without actually, with al-Shara, without actually checking if he's really trying to make Syria great again. Everything that we're seeing right now, the massacre of the Alawites, the Druze, the Christians, there's not a single official government statement that is condemning it. There's not a single clear-cut action that is going against it. We're not seeing that. We're just seeing hush, hush, cover, cover, try to hide it, and Western media is helping them. And here comes the greatest question is, how is it that always these jihadists can trust on mainstream Western media, especially the left one? How is it? Nowadays, even the woke right. I never thought I'll say that word, woke right, but we're seeing that come with Candace Owens, Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson, all kind of half-baked potato heads intellectuals that are just, we're seeing that happening right now. So the woke right and the big chunk of the left is falling for that. I'm not saying all, there is normal people in the middle, but they're not as loud as these radicals. How do the jihadists always know they can count on them? That is a very serious question that everyone needs to ask. The real benchmark to a better Syria is the minorities in Syria. How are they being treated? If they have the freedom to practice their religion, to walk freely outside their house, to not fear that their daughters are going to get kidnapped and become sex slaves, then Syria is becoming better. But if not, then it's not becoming better. And right now, it seems to be that maybe it's actually getting worse than how it was with Assad. And the West is now pouring money and helping that government maybe to actually do what they're trying to do. When will we start listening to Muslims when they say what they want to do? Why are we ignoring that? Iran keeps saying death to America, death to Israel. In Syria, they keep saying death to Israel and that they want to purge the country out of anyone who is not Sunnah. Why are we not listening to them? Why are we not taking them by their word? Why are we always trying to hope that maybe it'll get better just because someone put a blazer and shaved his beard a little bit? It doesn't change him from being a terrorist. You take a very long way to prove to the world that you've changed rather than just changing your outfit. Now, here's the tricky part where we might end up, and that's what the Syrians are actually afraid of. If you look at the case of Gaza, the West have been sending Gaza money for a very long time, removing sanctions and trying to send them, and all that money was used not to build more schools, not to help the infrastructures, not to build hospitals, not to promote space programs or art. It was used to build dungeons and bunkers under the ground, torture rooms, and places that they can kidnap civilians. And it was used to orchestrate and sponsor the weapons and means of a genocide that they went and did October 7 and then kidnapped women and children and later on used their own people as human shields. So the people in Syria are still very skeptical. They said, Jolani haven't proved to us that he's not a terrorist anymore. Nothing on the table is showing that. There's still massacre to the Alawites, to the Druze, to the Christians. They're still living in fear. They cannot leave their villages. Druze students cannot go back to university because if they do, either they're going to get killed or kidnapped and become sex slaves. Kurdish and Yazidis are still fighting for their life there. So the situation is looking very, very bad in Syria. And however, the West is still talking about let's send them money. And what makes the people in Syria very, very afraid, and we've seen that also with the people of Iran, the free people of Iran, is that the West comes, start doing the job, doesn't finish the job, jump on the first chance for ceasefire and goes out. And what happened is the local people that dared to be brave enough to come and say, hey, we don't hate the Jews. We don't want a bad life. We don't want to live under Sharia law. We want to live in a democracy. We want to change this government to make Syria a better place, to make Iran a better place. They've just exposed themselves. Now the people there, the bad guys who are hiding right now, are taking names. And when the West goes, America, Israel, when they go out of it, they're just going to go and make things worse for them. Anyway, I just want to bring this to your attention. The situation in Syria is far from getting better. And people in Syria, here, let me read for you. Oh, it's on my phone. A relative of mine told me that everybody in Syria is feeling right now that they're on the brinks of a civil war. They're like, the Druze in Sweden are still sending their sons to go and guard the towns. They're running low on food, barely no electricity. They're running low on supplies. They're very, very tired, but they're saying something is boiling under the ground and it's about to explode any second. We just can't let it happen. Western media, people who are watching this video, don't forget about the minorities in Syria. The Druze, the Christians, the Alawites, any minority, the peace-loving Muslims, any peace-loving human in Syria deserves better. And the little that we can do is actually support them and hold Western media and our official accountable. Hold them accountable so they don't just rug it under the table and then later on we look back in history and we say, oh my God, there was a whole genocide there. Hundreds of thousands of people died. Mass graves. Where was the West? Where was everyone? That's what happened in Syria. Not long ago. Just literally exposed maybe a few months ago. People forgot about it. People forgot about it. But we will be judged in the days to come through the books of history by our actions today. And if we allow these things to happen and take place, and if we allowed evil to take over good. One of my favorite quotes that I've seen it in the army, actually, one of my generals, when I was serving in the IDF and I was in Gaza, he had it written on his wall. He said, the only thing needed for evil to prevail is good men to do nothing. You know, I might have missed a few words here and there, but you get the point. The only thing needed for evil to prevail is for good men and women to do nothing. Just wait, because evil is working relentlessly, and the good guys, we like to kind of think that maybe things will change for better. We've seen that before. It doesn't work. Stay safe. Don't do anything stupid. In general, see you next time.